Good morning. Is this working? uh, just making sure that you guys can hear me and that it's on and working. I'm using my computer, so the video quality won't be as good as film. That's okay. Uh, yeah, this whole setting of a live stream is funny because it doesn't come on automatically. You have to start it, but I honestly don't know what button to hit. So into my analytics and just hit live stream editing, and it came on. So hopefully this is working. If you guys can hear me, let me know. Let's see if I can tilt this down a bit. So you can chat. Hello, Melissa. Thanks for joining this morning. Did you get to read this at all? So we are talking about Beverly Lewis, the beginning today. I read the first 20 chapters. I started slow and then I really got into it and I read like 10 to 20 in basically one sitting. And that's usually how I do these books because they're so good. So we'll wait a little bit to see if anyone else joins us, but we'll talk about this book a little bit. So it was, and I have a really special thing to tell you guys later that happened last night. So anyway, I know I've read all of her books starting in 2000. I love her books. I've lent out many of them. I don't know where they all are, but I sure love them. It's fun to read them with people. So see if I can get this screen a little bigger to see what you guys are doing. So can you hear me? That's the important thing. I guess I could check my phone, see how it's going. Let's see here. Thanks for your patience. I'm not super good at live streaming. I'm still learning, especially on my computer. I haven't done my computer one in like a year. Let's see if this is working. I have to try to have any back. Yeah, it's on here. Oh, good. You can hear me. That's just weird to hear myself talk right after I said it. Okay. So, if you don't know, she has written all of these books. You can see all that. I think my very first one most likely was The Shunning. I'm not positive. I feel like that might have been her very first book, and that became a movie on TV. There's a 3-part series of that one. Where is it? Oh, where is it? Oh yeah, The Heritage of Lancaster County, The Shunning, The Confession, and The Reckoning. So that became a movie on television, but that was maybe one of her first ones. My favorite series is Abram's Daughters. There's a 5-book series set back in, I believe, the 40s and 50s, maybe 60s. I mean, it went on. That's one of my favorite ones. But I've read all of them. I can't tell you what all of them are about because it's been so long, but I would read them again. Hi, Melissa. So you can chat on there, but no, I can't hear you. We're just giving this a try today, see how it goes. If it's just not much fun because I can't hear you guys, or you can't be on here, we could try a different thing maybe someday, but we just thought we'd try YouTube today. But yeah, you can only chat on here. Like I can see what you're saying, and so can other people if they have their chat on. So that's how we can interact. So let's just start talking about the beginning, and then leave me your comments in the chat, and we can talk about what you want to talk about, questions you have or comments you have. And I'm going to have a few questions for you all. So the basis, I'll just read the back of the book. So those who have not read it have an idea what this is about. Okay. Susie Mast's Amish life in Lancaster County has been shaped by events beyond her control. The tragic deaths of her dad and close-in-age brother casting long shadows. Now 22, Susie remains unmarried despite her longtime affection for friend Obie Yoder. Unfortunately, her concerns are soon multiplied due to her mother's worsening health and her younger sister's urgent desire for answers about her adoption. Once again, Susie faces the possibility of loss. Will long-held family secrets and missed opportunities dim Susie's hopes for the future? Or is what seems like the end only the beginning? So yeah, the first thing that grabbed me about this book is just the tragedy she experienced as a child that most people don't experience. And that just hit home for me. Not hit home for me, but made me very empathetic to the character. I really felt like I had a blessed childhood. I didn't have any trauma in my childhood. But to have someone you love that close to you die, have 2 of your people in your family die, is very tragic. And If you read through these chapters, she still has nightmares about the accident her brother had. She was with her brother. Let's talk about the timeline a bit and the main characters. Please feel free to leave comments anytime you want. So Susie Mast is the main character. She turns 22 at the very first chapter of the book. She lives with her mom, Aquila, and her adopted sister, Brita, Britta. So Brita is 12 at this time. She turns 13 during the book in the summer. Her father died 15 years ago. So it was the oldest event of the book so far. Her brother, Eli, died 14 years ago. So he was 9. Susie was 8. Her dad had just died the year before. And then the year after Eli died, Brita was adopted. She was a foster baby. And it says in the book, it took a while for them to adopt her, but they adopted her. So that was the timeline of these main characters, because I kind of want to get that straight in my head of what happened when and how close they were and how far apart they were. So kind of made a little timeline here to help figure that out. So that is the main stuff. What I like about this book is it has Mae Zook in it. If you read all her books, she's like the wise woman of Hickory Hollow. People go to her for just her comfort and her presence and her advice. She doesn't ever offer advice, but people ask her advice all the time because she's so wise. She's one of my favorite characters. And I'm going to tell you something fun. I'm going to just tell you now because I was excited about it. So last night when I was getting ready for this book club, I thought, I wonder how, I know Mae Zook has been in many, many books. I was kind of wondering if there's like a list somewhere of her on like Beverly Lewis's website or somewhere in a forum. I couldn't find it. It didn't look super hard, but I couldn't find it. But what I did do is I actually got on Beverly Lewis's website. I sent her a message, assuming it would take her days to get back to me, probably, but I was just still curious. And she wrote back to me. I was like, oh. I was sitting down with my family watching Lord of the Rings, actually. And I'm like, you'll never believe who just wrote back to me on Messenger. And so I was pretty excited about that. And I'll tell you what she wrote later. But for now, I will tell you something that I think is really cool. Look at her updates. See if I can find it now. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Give me a second. She has a whole bunch of stuff on here. Okay, it's really cool. You should look at her website. There's a lot. So she has a vlog, and she has these care cards. She's the sister you can buy. They're really neat. Okay, well, I can't find the actual wording of it, but I will tell you, her new book coming out in fall 2023. I think it's going to be about Mae Zook, or at least feature her a lot and give us more of a background. I guess a lot of the readers have asked over the years to tell us more about Mae, so I'm really excited about that. That happens. She's such a cool character. So let's just go start reading or start going through like the questions and notes I had. Please feel free to chat. If you can't chat on here, you can go to my Facebook Elle Living page and send me messages that way. That would work too. I'll actually try to link this video on there real quick. That doesn't matter. You can send me messages without the video. But let me get on there real quick. So Facebook, Elle Living. And you can get on there and you can send messages on here. So you can always do that. I'm going to actually put a post on there and say any questions about the book, and you can just reply to that if it's easier. And then I'll try to link the video if it helps. Let's see. Give me a minute. Thank you for your patience. Don't you love people say that when you're like, how do you know I'm being patient? You don't know I'm being patient. So you can leave comments in this post. I'm just going to put on my Elle Living Facebook page if you want. If you can't chat on here, I'll have it right here. So hopefully we'll see it. Okay. So what I love about Beverly Lewis is that she starts out these books like just getting you right into Lancaster. You feel like you're right there, especially in the first chapter. The prologue, though, we'll just go over that real quick. It was springtime. The book starts in springtime in Hickory Hollow. Hickory Hollow is another common, I think it's fictional, but it's a common area for a lot of her books. Several places have used Hickory Hollow. Talks about her father dying 15 years ago. Talked about her getting up at 4:30 in the morning, making 2 loaves of bread, and then scrubbing the floors. That's impressive. Something I thought was really sweet was that she introduces us to her family a little bit, and Obi is her friend, Obi Yoder. is her best friend slash love interest in this book. And they've been friends since third grade, which is the same year that Eli died, her brother. And Obi gave her a white sprayed pine cone with a little holly on it back in third grade, and she's kept it all these years. So I thought that was really sweet. I love the setup of their house. She looks out over her bedroom window, a thick grove of willows, which if you know Lancaster, you know they have abundance of beautiful willow trees. I picture those right away. They're just so beautiful. They have a little shop on their property where they sell goods and homemade items and food, especially her mama's peanut butter spread. It's like a cottage. It's open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. She has a sister, Polly, who's married with 3 children, a little baby, 18-month-old, and a school-aged boy. Her brother, Alan, moved with his wife, Sarah, and there's 6 kids to Missouri the year before this book started, which was a blow to them, of course. And then, of course, her sister, Brita, and her mom. Her mom has some worsening health issues. She has bad asthma, so she's been... Hi, Mom and Dad. Glad you're on here. Her mom has had worsening health and asthma, so she tries to pick up the slack and do as many of the house chores as they can. Sweet thing to say. She knows Britta's been a little bit moody lately, kind of pensive around her mom. It's foreshadowing what's to come with her questions about her adoption. All right. So chapter 1. In fact, let's just go to chapter 1 because this is why I love Beverly Lewis. She just enraptures you right away with Lancaster. I love it. Oh, hang on. Okay. Just listen to the first few lines. You're going to feel like you're in Lancaster and you're like driving by Amish country and seeing this. Okay. A flagstone walkway led to the long front porch of the old stone house where Susie Mass lived with her widowed mother, Aquila, and her sister, Brita. The path curved past a small white gazebo in the side yard near 2 sugar maples, then around to the back door, which opened into the outer room where, before he moved away, Susie's brother, Alan, had been known to clump indoors with dirty work boots. The one-room schoolhouse is about half a mile away, but just the opening sentence of the house is so descriptive. She's so good at that. It's just giving you the description of the beautiful area of Lancaster, which is really one reason I fell in love with Lancaster, because it brought me back to Pennsylvania when I was living far away. It was such a therapeutic reading for me. It was just so beautiful. Okay, so that was fun to read the description of the looks of their front. So they have an old stone house, which I can just picture. Like in my mind, it's gray stone with a big white front porch and the willow trees in the back and the pond in the back. There's a pond in the back with the willow trees and the gazebo. So it's just fun to picture that stuff. Okay, let's see what went on in chapter 1. Please leave questions if you have anything. Sorry if you, let me check on my Facebook page real quick. Let's see here. Okay, that's ready now. All right, so this is so chapter 1 is when, in page 21, is where LMA is brought up, and her mom goes to see LMA that day. I guess it's a couple of days after Susie's birthday. And one thing that her mom said that I loved, because this is what someone you love to be around does for you. Her mom said, LMA has a way of helping me forget myself, which I just thought was such a neat line, because if you know someone who's suffering and every day, and they can be around somebody who does that, and they just bring them joy, just forget their troubles for a while. It's a blessing. Okay. Another character was introduced, Delmar Petershine, I think. He was friends with her sister, her brother Alan. He comes into play in this chapter. Del showed interest in her immediately, asked her to go on dates and stuff. So, Melissa, good question. Did they adopt Brita from another Amish family? That is one of the mysteries of the book. And so when I got to chapter 20, they haven't said yes or no to that question. Brita's been asking questions. She did finally ask questions to her mom, I think in chapter 19 or 20, after her birthday when she turned 13. Her mom answered some of those, and we'll get to those. I'm going to make sure I say them right. All she told her was that you were a foster baby. Your mother was unable to care for you, and we were happy to have you. And that's all she really told her about her mom. She's like, I'm going to tell you more when you turn 18. That's one of the sticking points of right now for Brita, is that she wants to know now, and she doesn't want to wait 5 years, and she's very antsy to know. She feels very much like an outsider because her name's different, her hair is different. It's auburn, long auburn wavy hair, but for some reason she feels that that's different. I don't know. So I know, like, trust me, I already have theories about her adoption that are crazy. We'll get to that. Let's just kind of get through some stuff that. Let me know if you have any other questions. But yeah, we don't know yet. As of chapter 20, we don't know who she was adopted from. I wrote down some notes though throughout this, so I hopefully make sure I'm saying the right things. But one thing I want to ask you guys, if you ever had German sausage, because that was I love to talk when they had the food in here that they serve a lot in Lancaster. I like to write it down and talk about it, and the words they use in Pennsylvania Dutch. It's fun to talk about those things. So German sausage, I don't know how German sausage is different than regular sausage, but if you know, tell me in the chat or the comments later, because I don't know. Something I love that their main driving horse is called Attagirl. I just was like, yes, that's an awesome name. Okay, and then something really sweet. Hazel is Obi's sister, 14 years old, and Brita's best friend, newly formed best friendship. So it's fun to watch Hazel and Brita navigate this newly formed best friendship because I think Brita was fond of her cats and didn't have a lot of friends, and she's learning how to be friends. It's really sweet friendship. But Hazel told Brita when Brita was talking about her adoption, she said, "You are who God meant you to be." And I just thought that was such a comforting thing to say, which is true. That's true for all of us. Okay. One thing I guess we should talk about in the prologue that was a pretty big event that kind of filters through this whole story is that on Susie's birthday, Obi and her went for a walk around the pond, which they always do. They've been best friends for a long time. They have such an ease with each other. They talk to each other. But he stopped her and looked at her and said, "I want to talk to you about something important. We've been friends for a long time. What do you think?" And then as soon as he started saying it, Britta came running up and saying, "You have a phone call from our brother in Missouri." And so Obi never finished his sentence. He didn't finish his sentence the whole first 20 chapters and then takes a turn for the worse. So, yes, it's frustrating. That's so, should have mentioned that before, but that was kind of the beginning of what could be happening between Susie and Obi. So, yes, that was frustrating. Okay. Let's see what else we need to talk about. One thing I noticed on page 37, she said, was that the Amish don't have indoor cats. And I was like, is that true? So if you know if that's true or not, let me know that too, because I don't know. Or dogs for that matter. I'm sure they leave their dogs inside when it gets cold. And then I think Susie's mom called her a little red hen, which is like a way of saying a really busy housekeeper, successfully busy housekeeper. And when if any of you people, anybody in your family says that when they, because in my family, we actually say Susie homemaker. Like we say, "Aren't you a little Susie homemaker?" Which is funny because the main character is Susie, which I thought was really funny. That's what we say in our family. So I know if your family you say something like that, like Little Red Hen or Susie homemaker. A book that they read in the morning sometimes, the girls when they wake up for devotions, is Godly Rules of a Godly Life, which I've heard mentioned in these books before. I'm curious about that book as well. Okay, talked about in chapter 4, we learn more about Eli's accident, her brother, when he was 9. Happened 14 years ago. Like I said, Susie and Eli were walking home from somewhere, I can't remember, and Susie went out into the field a bit to pick a flower, and a car came and she heard Eli kind of shout out, then hit the ground, and then that was it. So she walked away. She would have been hit if she was with him, so she has that guilt in her too, and the guilt of going for the feather that wouldn't happen. She's all this guilt in her of what would have happened if. So it's so sad. But I like when authors make us think about that, because there's so many people who have so many tragic events in their life, and we just don't know. It's always important to be patient, kind people, because we just don't know what they've been through. Talked about their mom encouraging them to remember the Bible teaches forgiveness in chapter 4. That was something they talked about a lot, was forgiveness. Her mom really focuses on that and is really good at it. I swear, as far as she doesn't have any bitterness. Hazel mentioned reading Grace Livingston Hall books, which I thought was interesting that they threw that in this book. If any of you have ever read those books, I think maybe I have, but I can't remember what the title was. Okay, let's see. Moving along. Hang on, I need a drink. Something Susie does as part of her work is she makes cross-stitch family trees and sells them at places like her market, but also like the Birmingham market, which I thought was really cool that that's in the book, that she goes to Birmingham Farmers Market on Saturdays and sells her family cross stitching. So she cross stitches family trees. That's a pretty popular thing she does. Okay. Something else that she said, someone said that they redded up the kitchen. Redded, like as in cleaned it. Anybody use that language besides them? I've heard it. Pretty sure my grandma used to say that. My mom and dad would be able to confirm that or not, I think. Another cute saying that Brita said when she felt like she was hearing rumors from Hazel about Obi and Susie, and she didn't want to get in the middle of it, and she felt like she was in a sticky situation. Was that she said, "Frost, I feel like frosting and a whoopie pie stuck between you and Hazel." I thought that was such a fun comparison. I was like, I've never heard that before. I loved it. And then we learned that Kitzlich means ticklish in Amish. So we learned also that Mama does not like talk about Eli. That she never talks about Eli, and that she's also famous for making really good rhubarb jam. She's famous for that. Chapter 9, we learned that Susie still has nightmares about Eli, but then she just sets her mind on positive things for the day. And yeah, it is fun, Melissa, to hear about the places that they've been to. Like you can picture it like in your mind. You're like, oh, I've been there. The exact like I picture when she said the Birmingham Farmers Market. I picture that little stand, like when you first walk in, you go straight across the aisle. There's like that crafty stand there with all those beautiful decorations. I feel like she'd be there, or she'd be down where all the other like homemade like stuffed animals and books and stuff that they sell for kids. I feel like she'd be there. Like in my mind, I'm thinking that's where she'd be. Okay. Another thing that kind of foreshadowed the mystery of Britta and Eli and all that stuff was that on page 78, Susie remembered when she's at the market, remembered a time shortly after Eli's death where she saw her mom and Ella Mae like talking privately at the market after Eli's death and then stopped talking when Susie walked up. And for some reason that sticks in her mind. Just interesting that she mentioned that here. And my mom and dad said that yes, my nana and my mama both said read up the kitchen. Did you read up the kitchen? Read up the kitchen. Okay, so and then she does mention where she is in the market. She says that on page 79, she says that the lunch counter was 2 aisles away. Well, there's only 2 aisles in Birmingham Farmers Market, but still, I thought that was neat. Okay, what else? I'm trying to circle this up. That's really important. Oh, it's interesting. So yeah, this is my first time, so have mercy on me. But another big thing that happened, and I don't know the chapter because some of the chapters I was reading like so quickly that I was not writing down the notes. But one big thing that happened is Obi asked Susie what she thought about him leaving to go to Indiana, I believe, to do like a 2-year apprenticeship for blacksmith, I believe. And he wanted to hear her thoughts, and of course she was taken aback, but she wouldn't encourage him as a friend because it's his dream. So she kind of encouraged him to go, even though she didn't want him to go. So he decided to go. He's going to go in October. I think he ends up moving up sooner. I can't remember the month, May or June. So that's a big part of the story too, is that he left and that in the meantime, she was dating a guy named Dell. We talked about him earlier, won a few dates. And then Obi knew about it before he left that she was dating this guy. Never talked about it. It's just, oh, it just drives you crazy as a reader. Just talk about it. Just talk to each other. Just get it out in the open. Stop making assumptions about each other. It drives me crazy. That's what these books do. There has to be growing in these characters. Oh, it's just hard to watch. So anyway, in chapter 10, I was surprised at Susie's surprising sadness over Obi leaving. Like, why are you surprised? Don't you know how much he means to you? So I just think it's interesting that she is still realizing what she really feels for Obi. She's kind of in denial, I think, as far as how deeply she cares for him. He's her best friend, but I think it is more than that, and I think she's not quite sure what's happening within her mind and her heart. And then Obi's mom, Kate Yoder, has a Sister's Day fellowship day of breakfast casseroles, apple muffins, OJ coffee, all that, which I thought was fun. It's before the work bees come, like the canning bees, that sort of stuff. They start doing that soon. But they did talk about Obi about to leave at that point. Chapter 11. Let's see what happened here. Oh, I think this is kind of cool. So, a lot of the Amish have amazing gardens. You just need to drive around and see that yourself. They're so good at it. I'm not nearly as good at that. I wish I was. But something that I thought was cool is that in chapter 11, Susie mentioned that Susie and Mama were sketching out a plan for the garden. So they're actually like sitting down, sketching out a plan for the garden, which just shows you how much thought they put into it. Hi, Jimmy. So there's some books by Marta Perry that also talk about the places that we've been to. So I'll have to check. I've never read Marta Perry. I'll have to check that out, Jimmy. Thanks for mentioning that. Okay. Oh, and by the way, that book that's coming out in February of this year by Beverly Lewis is gonna kind of take place in Birmingham near Kaufman's Fruit Farm. Like those are those familiar places they'll be in the book. So I'm like, yeah, because Birmingham is like my favorite. So excited for that book. So good news for fall of 2020. Actually, that's not this year, is it? Dang it. For some, I was thinking it was this year, but it's next year. It's a long time to wait, but it'll be worth it. Okay, so we also learned in chapter 11 that Tuesday, April 26th is Eli's death anniversary. So all this stuff about Obi leaving is still happening in April, about to leave, that sort of thing. Hazel was talking to Brita asked Hazel what she knows about her adoption. And Hazel just told her that all we know is that Brita's mom, so Aquila and her husband, the father who died, were foster parents for a few years before this happened, before he died, and that Aquila still wanted to foster a baby and adopt a baby after her husband passed. So we know that she came along after the husband had passed, after Eli had died, because she still wanted to have a baby to care for. But close together, if you noticed. Eli's passing and Brita's adoption are almost exactly a year in April to July, a year and 4 months. So I just think that's interesting. I'm going to give you my little bit of a sometimes Beverly Lewis does these crazy connections into her books. I feel like it's crazy, but I feel like somehow Eli's accident and Brita's adoption are somehow related in some way. It is driving me crazy because I don't want that to be right because it'd be heart-wrenching, but a lot of times there's some heart-wrenching stuff that happens in these books. You're like, "What?" I'm just gonna tell you why. That's one of my guesses is that there is a connection between Brita's adoption and Eli's, the driver or a family member, someone who knows or knew or something, because I don't know, the timing is odd, and then as you read their first several chapters, you find out at Eli's anniversary, anniversary of Eli's death, every year, somebody puts a bouquet of flowers on the site where he died, and they don't know who it is. Every single year, for or how long it's been, 14 years, someone's been putting flowers on that spot. So someone is paying tribute and thinking of him and honoring him every single year, and they don't know who it is. Supposedly, the girls don't. Mama, not sure, but she does not know that. Another mystery in this book. So, all interesting stuff. But we know that April 26th is the anniversary of Eli's death. And that, with Susie and Brita talk later and retold the story of her parents being foster parents and Susie being glad that her mama wanted to adopt Brita. So it was all about the foster parents, and Susie came to them. She was 10 days old when she came to them, Brita was. And that's all we really get so far about the adoption, was that they were foster parents. Aquila continued being a foster parent after the father had died, her husband had died, and then that's how they got Brita. About a year after Eli had died. Okay. And then something I thought was really sweet. So in chapters 12 through 13, maybe 14, we go through April, May, and June pretty quick. But in the meantime, there's lots of conversations. And one thing that Brita asked Susie was, what was Eli's favorite thing to do? And she said fishing and turkey hunting with Dad. And she said he had a good eye for corner ball at recess. So he was good with his hands and felt like he would have been a good builder, I think, because he was so good with his hands. We also found out it was raining the night Eli died with the hit and run. It was a hit and run accident. There's rumors that the driver was drunk. No, nothing confirmed. Chapter 13, we're at the end of April, and they talk about Lancaster County farmers planting their field corn for the October harvest. So again, you can just picture them out there tilling the soil, planting their corn, or they're tilling the soil before that. So I love picturing those things in my mind. Then Susie is out planting more vegetables in her garden. She loves her garden. She's all excited about it. So she's planting stuff, chapter 13. They talk about the flowers along the road where Eli died on page 109. And when they talked about it to their mom, she was unsurprised, so she knows, but didn't talk about it. Okay. And when Brita does talk about the time, and ma'am always seems uncomfortable. And then she remembered again when she's talking to her mom about Eli dying and the circumstances, and her mom's uncomfortable. In Susie's mind, she goes back to that conversation that LMA and her mom were having secretly, and just it's stuck in her mind for some reason. Okay. So Brita gets out of school sometime in May or early June. Brita turns 13th on July 2nd. Dell picks up his family tree. They've had a few dates, Dell and Susie, throughout the time. Just friendly dates. She's comfortable with him for a while. I'm just checking my living thing on Facebook, making sure there's no messages here. So, sorry. I think it's probably fine. Okay. Chapter 15. Okay, wait, let me go back to chapter 14. Oh, this is kind of fun. So, Dell, the guy she's dating / friend, told Susie that his family has this trait where they can guess ingredients in food, and she's like, I'd be surprised you could do that. So Susie gave him the famous rhubarb jam with their secret ingredients, and he guessed what they were like right away, which I thought was interesting. This is clementine juice, lime juice, and cinnamon. I don't know, I thought that was really neat. I've never used clementine juice in anything, so I've never made jam either. Okay. On June 1st, Obi comes and surprises Susie and takes her out in the rowboat on their pond. And they just have a nice day talking. And then he tells her on June 1st he's leaving earlier, like I think that week. So that's when that happened. That was on page 116. So something else that was kind of random. On page 119, they were at a market, a sales day, Brita and her mom and Susie, and she saw a auburn-haired English lady. She's like, could this be my mom? Could this be my birth mother? Like, I need to know. Like, she's really just focusing so much on finding out her heritage, her physical birth heritage. And so just some random woman she saw, she was like, could this be my mom? I completely understand that curiosity. I think that would be, she just seems to be really not able to move on from it. Okay, so then on page 120, Obi has already left, and this is later in the chapter. Then Dell and Obi both send Susie a letter on the same day. Susie's really happy about the letter from Obi, and Dell asks her out again. Chapter 15, we're seeing Mama's health issues. She's tuckered out after making a meal. They tell her to rest. Something that's really neat. Susie goes to visit some cousins, friends. She comes back for prayer time and Bible reading with her mom and her sister. And something I thought was really sweet that she prayed at night. She prayed that God would change her heart from Obi to Dell if it was his will. So she feels like she needs to move on because she feels like Obi does not want to be anything more than a friend, and she's really struggling with her feelings for him and wanting to move on with her life and someday have a family and kids. So I thought that was a sweet prayer. I prayed for people and myself that God would change my mind about things too before. Sometimes he does. Chapter 16, Brita's birthday. Not much said about that. The next day, she talks to her mom about her adoption. So here's my notes on that. When the first thing she asked her mom was about her name, Brita, because it's not an Amish common name. And her mama stiffened, but told her it was an English name. That's what her mama gave her. Her birth mother gave her the name Brita. And she's like, I was your foster mom. At first, I was happy to have you. You were 10 days old when you came to us. Their birth mother was unable to bear the responsibility of raising up a child. That's what this says on page 131. And then she tells her, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story when you're 18. So she kind of cuts her off then. And Brita's left wondering. Brita tells Susie later she wanted more. She felt worse after knowing that because it just left her hanging. It was something I think that was neat about the willow trees. Completely off subject, but her mom had talked about page 131, 132. There's nothing more peaceful than a willow tree, blowing in the wind. I was like, you are right. I love to see the willow trees blowing in the wind. They're such a peaceful tree. Susie and Brita go walking at the end of the chapter towards I think just take a walk, and they talk about the adoption again. And something else that Susie told Brita was new information was that it took a long time to officially adopt Brita. And that's all she said, was just hard to adopt you. And I know people who have adopted kids, And sometimes when they're foster system, they just take a while. It could just be that. It could be if somebody was trying to get her back. We don't know. Hopefully we'll find out soon. Okay, so then this is interesting too. In chapter 17, page 139, Susie decides to step back from dating. And this is the key thing she realizes. I'm like, finally, you're realizing something. Page 138, she says, the more time she spends with Dell, the lonelier she feels around him. I was like, ding. Move on, please. So I thought that was very wise. I was like, she's a wise girl. She's realizing she's spending time with him. She's giving a chance, but she's just feeling lonely around him. I thought that was such a neat line, of thought that she had. And she knows it's not the same. She has such a comfortable camaraderie, such a closeness with Obi that she does not have with Dell. She's just not forming with him. So she tells him, thank you for dating me. You've been very kind, but I'm going to stop dating now. And she doesn't want to date anybody. And then she finds out soon after that Obi's coming home for Christmas. So that was exciting. So now this is still chapter 17, beginning of December already. And then they have every book I've read when they mention a school play at Christmas, there's always a school play at Christmas. I think that might be a real thing that they usually have a Christmas play at the schoolhouse every Christmas. And so they were going to that, and Brita was in it. She played Mary, and Susie was very touched about how good she was a baby and that sort of thing. But at the play, Susie's watching Brita. She looks around. She sees Obi like staring at her with this really warm, affectionate look on his face, and she's like taken aback by it. Another wonderful thing to hear, to read. And they talk afterwards a little bit. He asks her if she's going to go sledding with the youth on Saturday, I think. And Susie leaves there confused about friendship versus the way he was looking at her, because that was not the way it looks. You look at a friend. This is chapter 18 now. So then page 150, Britta's asking her brother-in-law, Henry, about her birth. And he tells her, you were an answer to prayer. Mama wanted another child even before Eli died. And told her to be patient and trust her mom, which was wise advice. And then they do have sledding with the youth, and Susie noticed Obi talking with Tessie, who's a teacher of the schoolhouse, and she realized she was a little jealous, and I think she was surprised about that too. Chapter 19, her cousin friend Verena, I think is how you say it, was frank with Susie and said, you're in denial about how you feel about Obi, basically. She told that to her. I thought that's a good friend to just flat out tell her, you're not being honest with yourself about how you feel about him. And so that took Susie, kind of took that in and started thinking about it. And then later, Susie and Obi were having small talk. I think this is during the sledding still. And this is just cute. This is for the romantics out there. They brushed shoulders, and she got all woozy kind of. That's not what it says, but basically she was just physically affected by that, which was sweet. Okay. And then Obi had given her a card for Christmas that he made at the school play, which really touched Susie. And then she realized that she should make him something too. She doesn't know the boundaries of this relationship, but she decided to do it anyway. And she delivers it to him on Christmas Day before he leaves in a few days to go back. So that was really sweet. And Hazel called Brita during milking of the goats at 4:30 in the afternoon to tell her, guess who was just here? This is so typical of girlish talk. And he's like, guess who's just here? Susie came and brought Obi a card. I thought that was cute that they were talking about that on the phone. All right, so chapter 20 is Christmas Sunday. You see that Brita is excited about preaching service. She loves going to preaching service. That's a good clue about Brita, especially at Christmas. Okay, yeah, this is what happened. So on Christmas Day is when this whole thing happened with Susie delivering the card and Hazel telling Brita. So that's all that happened. And then Susie on page 163 expresses sadness over Obi's new life. She's happy for him that he's happy there, but she's sad because she feels like he's not going to come home. He's settling down. He's going to meet somebody. And she's just starting to kind of get familiar with her feelings. Understand that she's really sad about this, but she feels like there's nothing she can do because she needs to support him. Polly and Henry were impressed with how good Brita was with their kids and told her she should come babysit and hire a driver. They pay the driver to have that happen. I guess Hazel asked Polly during Christmas Day about her adoption, and Polly just said kind of the same thing. Foster baby, you came. One thing she told her that was new, that you were such a happy baby, you hardly ever cried. I thought that was really sweet. But something else that was nice too is that Polly was empathetic towards Britta's curiosity. She's the first person to be like, "I understand. I'd be curious too if I were you." And that was, I think, really helpful to Britta to have someone really understand her and feel like she's not unusual to want to know these things. So that's all I really have for the first 20 chapters. That's just hanging. So honestly, I think I'm gonna read like the next 20 like as soon as I possibly can. So leave me a comment if you want to do this in like a week and we can just talk about it, or somehow, or even in the comments of this video. But I'm just excited to find out what's going on here. So tell me your like guesses. Like what do you think? What do you think? So most of her books now are one book. There's one book. You know, back a while ago, she would do like 3-book series or 5-book series or 2-book series, or I think this is gonna be a one and done again. I could be wrong. I'm hoping it's not. I actually like them when they kind of draw out over time. And tell me what you think, because I don't know. I feel like there has to be a connection between Eli's, the driver, and Britta. It might not be, but that to me is very dramatic and something you would see in a book sometimes. I could be wrong. It's kind of hard to hear that. Thank you, Melissa, for telling me that. Yeah, I'm so excited to like find out what happened. I just gonna read it and I have to hold off until like next week to talk about it. I'd probably be like, let's do this on Monday because I'm ready to talk about it. But so something else on Beverly Lewis's website that I would suggest you try is they actually have discussion questions for the latest book she has out. So there's a few we can talk about because just about the beginning of the book. But her first discussion question was, how do you think the title of this book plays into the plot? What are some beginnings included in the novel? That's a good question. I mean, my first guess, tell me your guesses, but my first guess is that it's the beginning of a new phase of her life when we get there. Like, she's going to be in a relationship with Obi, I certainly hope. Has to be. That's going to be a beginning of something new for them. But they've been friends for so long. It's kind of like a shift more than a beginning to me. Maybe the beginning of Britta's revelations of her adoption. So yeah, I think it's an interesting title, honestly, because it's feels like there's nothing new we're learning. It's just all being revealed. Like things are being revealed about relationships, about your feelings, about Britta. So I think that's an interesting question. Tell me what you think. I honestly don't have a very good answer for that. Okay. This is neat too. Number 2, she says, in giving Susie counsel about Obi, Mama says, a solid friendship is the best foundation for a relationship, and dating takes things a step further, tells you if there's a spark. Have you seen this to be true? Hopefully you all can say yes to that. None of us are really super young. I don't know, most of you might be in your 20s. I know the rest of us who are chatting are not in their 20s. I'm in my 40s. And yes, I completely agree. One of my sons actually has a girlfriend and they started as friends and they have a very sweet relationship. And not just them, but I've seen that in my life. People who have a good relationship are friends as a baseline. They're good to each other. They care about each other. So yeah, absolutely. Please answer this. I don't be the only one talking. Okay. So Jimmy says, if you enjoy a series, like, more than one book series, I would suggest Perry, Three Sisters Inn, or Plain Sight series. Okay. That sounds good to me. We can do that next. I would be happy to do that next after this book. That sounds good. I love more than one book. Just like I like to watch like movies that are like more than one. Like The Avengers is like a 25 movie plot, basically. Okay, let's see. What role does Ella May play in her community? In the author's note, Beverly mentions that she based the character on 2 wise women from her own childhood. Have you ever known someone like Ella May? I mean, honestly, in my mind, Ella May is like really elevated, like more mature than anyone I know, like just so kind and wise. And I feel like I know a lot of people who she's in a lot of people I know, but she's so like elevated in these books. I don't know if I can find one person like that. My mom is wise. My grandma was wise and kind. My mother-in-law was wise. I have a lot of good women in my life, but yeah, she's pretty exceptional. I hope I can be like her someday, but probably Not because I talk too much. Let's just be real. She's a listener. I try to listen. I do. I can listen, but I also get excited when I'm around people and I talk a lot. So I'm guessing I would be more of a friend to LMA than an LMA. Okay. Brita secretly approves of and encourages Susie's relationship with Obi from the start. Have you felt an inkling that two people should end up together? Anybody else want to answer? um, I try not to be this way with my boys because I feel like as parents, we do have wisdom about our kids and about their future that they don't quite have. But I also feel like God knows way better than I do. So I just pray. I just pray for their spouse, their future spouses. I pray for their relationships. I pray for them to have wisdom because he can direct way better than I can. So that's honestly like that's where I stand with that. Of course I have inklings and I sometimes will say things about that, um but I really try to just pray about it and trust the Lord to guide him because I don't want to get in the way. I That can be bad too. I have a friend who more than one friend who has struggled with who their child is dating, and they know they can say only so much before it becomes fuel for that relationship, and that is just true. Um, and then yeah, you can only encourage people so much. But how I got together with my husband was definitely a little bit of push in my family, I will tell you. So I had just graduated college, and well, like the May before, I had met Dan at church in the fall. We talked a little bit over Christmas break. We talked about maybe going out sometime. My grandma and his mom were both like conniving on New Year's Eve. Not really conniving. I should not say that. They were talking on New Year's Eve about, well, has Danielle called Dan? Has Dan called Danielle? And they were like talking about this and why haven't they called each other? And so like literally the next day, my mother-in-law gets on Dan's case and my grandma gets on my case and says, why aren't you calling Dan? Why aren't you calling Danielle? So Dan calls me that day by a push from his mom. I'm not saying he wouldn't have. I was just kind of like, I did not want to date anybody, to be honest. You might not want to hear this story, but I'm telling it anyway. So I did not really want to date anybody because I was really trying to just focus on the right things and just with the Lord in my career and stuff like that. So I went out with him. I said yes, I would go out with him. But I was like, eh. And then he did call me on New Year's Day and he was like, let's you want to go out tomorrow. So we went out the next day. That was January 2nd. We were engaged by Easter and married by August. It's very fast. I feel bad for my parents. Sorry about that. That was really fast. And we got married in 98. So what was that? 23 years? What's this? 22? I'm horrible at math. Is it 24 years? Oh wow. Anyway, that took a little encouragement from my grandma and my mother-in-law. So it does happen. It is okay to encourage people. Just you gotta have boundaries. But anyway, that's our story. I don't know why. Like I said, I talk too much. Okay, Melissa, thank you for thank you for leaving comments. It's not just me talking. Melissa says, my brother married our next door neighbor. Oh, I love this. Well, they knew each other since first grade, but didn't start dating until college. Oh, I love these kind of stories. And this is probably why I love this book, because I'm trying to think of anybody I know who were like childhood friends who became sweethearts. I know that happens, but I don't know anyone personally. So that's really sweet. Thank you for telling us, Melissa. Aw. I do know a few couples who were friends as kid, and then there's one day they said they started looking at each other differently, and I was like, oh, so sweet. So yes, that's so sweet. I'm happy for your brother. Oh, okay. What questions are on here? Okay. This might be the last one because then after a while it gets to be stuff that we haven't talked about. Okay. Susie and her family make most of their income from selling products to tourists in Lancaster County. What are some reasons you think Englishers are eager to visit Amish country? Well, this is an open-ended question because this is what I talk about all the time on YouTube. This is why I have a YouTube channel because Lancaster is amazing. I'm sorry, I didn't know that was coming. That is so funny. So I started my YouTube channel. I looked up like how many visitors Lancaster gets a year. I was just curious. And at the time, this is like 2 years ago, right before COVID, it was like 8 million or something like that. It's a lot of people. So yeah, people like to come to Lancaster, and she's asking, why do you think that is? I know how I feel about that. It's just such a relaxing, peaceful, serene place to be. life goes slower. It's interesting. The food is delicious. The farmland is beautiful. Especially if you're in a city and you get to go and be around wide open spaces, that's very refreshing. Those are my opinions. I know you guys have opinion. I know a lot of you love Lancaster too. So leave your comments or something about what you think, why people come to Lancaster, why Englishers love Lancaster. It's just a special place. There is something special about it. It truly is. It's a blessed place. I really feel that is true. Um, so that's a neat question. You can keep answering. I know it takes a while for what I say to get to what you're seeing, and then it takes a while for what you're writing to get to me. So I'm going to wait a little bit. But okay. There's a couple of things we could talk about here. What do you think about the choice to have? Oh, I can't read that. No, I'm not gonna read it to you because it's a spoiler. I'm gonna find out later today anyway. But um, okay. For a while, Susie and Obi's only communication is through the occasional letter. In what ways do letters make for better communication? Do they have any limitations? This will be our last question, I think. I just read something I shouldn't have. But so you probably feel like I do. Letter writing is like an art that's going away, I think, for the most part. But I will give credit to the generation, the young generation. They don't write letters, but they text a lot. I have a few friends and we text like novels to each other. And it's still a written form of communication. It's not as like thoughtful and as time, consuming, and like you're not putting a lot of effort and heart into it like you would a letter, I would say. But texting is tricky because you're not getting the full communication story. Like you can write something out and it can be taken a different way than if you're talking in person. I like texting because I feel like I am so like hyperactive sometimes that it's hard for me to, when I text, I really get things out better because I don't know why. I think it's the action of my hands. Even when I'm typing, it's like I'm better at typing out how I feel or I think than I am talking about it. It helps me focus better. That's just me. But I do feel like that. Sorry, Melissa says she's an Amish pen pal. Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. How long have you had an Amish pen pal? That's interesting you say that because on Barry Lewis's website that I was looking at last night, one of the frequently asked questions was, how do I get in touch with an Amish pen pal? And she's like, most of them are not going to be encouraged to write to Englisher, so you're lucky. Oh, that's so cool. She owns Hannah's Custom Quilts. You must have just made a connection with her, I'm assuming. That is so cool, Melissa. How often do you guys write? Like a month, like once a month or so? Just curious. I think it'd be interesting too. And I think it's such a neat art form, like letter writing, that is just falling away. And I know some of the books that she's written, they've had the youth will get like a pen pal from somewhere else and they'll write for a while. I'm not sure it's still practiced in the Amish, like the kids community, like the schoolhouse. They still do that. That's so cool though, Melissa. Thanks for sharing that with us. What a fun thing to do. So yes, that is all I have. Thank you guys for joining. But let's just plan for next Saturday at like the same time and talk about the rest of the book. And then I'm probably gonna finish it tomorrow because I just can't wait. I need to find out what happens. But thank you, Jimmy, for those recommendations, and then we can talk also about maybe we want to read next. And then we'll go from there. We'll see how this goes. But some of you, I'm glad that some of you were here, so thank you for joining. I'm make sure I haven't missed anything in the chat. But yeah, I like this book. She's so good at like writing characters you love and just admire immediately. Of course, they're all women. The main characters are all women, but like I'm amazed how she makes them all different, but yet still like lovable. It's just she's so talented at that. Like, how can you make like a kind-hearted, talented, sweet, thoughtful person like different every single time? But she does. And let me know if you have like favorite characters. Well, you're a little biased, Mom and Dad, so of course you're gonna say that. Okay, Melissa says, I write more often, but a couple of times a year I visit her when I come to PA. Oh, that is so cool. I'm slightly jealous about that. Yeah, I would love to have a pen pal. It'd be good for me to slow down and write letters and read them, but that's really cool. Just even just to share recipes, honestly, and just share customs. I think it'd be so interesting to find out more. Like I will say that Jesse and Anna at Old Woodmill Farm have been very nice to me when I email them, ask them questions. They almost always answer me. So we're not pen pals, but they are very good at sharing information when I have them. But they're also very busy. Okay, Melissa says I bought a quilt from her grandmother a while back and built up a connection with her granddaughter now. Oh, that's really cool. Oh man, I wish I could see a picture of the quilt too. So where was it? Hannah's Custom Quilts. That's not the one in Burnham, is it? I'll have to look that up. Where is Hannah's Custom Quilts? So yeah, explore that Beverly Lewis website. There's a lot on there. A lot of stuff, a lot of information, a lot of vlogs, not just her books, but a lot of Lancaster stuff. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, probably the best way to ever send me something like personal is probably a message on my Facebook page. You can send a message on there, and then you can send pictures, I think, through Messenger. I don't know if you can do it on here or not. I wish you could. I don't think you can though. Okay, so Hannah's Custom Quilts. I'm looking it up real quick. It's in Discover Lancaster. On it. Louisiana has one too, by the way. I probably should have put in Pennsylvania. It did show up for Lancaster, but I'm just curious where this is. It's fun to. It's in Gordonville on Irishtown Road. Okay. I'll have to stop there next time I go. Are you a quilter, Melissa? Irishtown Road. Okay. I'm not a quilter. Maybe someday. Okay. That's cool. How many quilts have you done? A lot of quilts and like sizes and kids or like hanging ones, or what's the biggest one you've done? That's one. Your mom. Okay. Nice. That's so cool. So, okay. Anybody else have any questions or anything? Thank you for joining me. I wish we could figure out a way to do this like more connection. Maybe after a while we can do like something different, like maybe like a Zoom call, but that requires personal information, so I'm not sure if we're gonna do that. I don't know. Not really. Email, which can and cannot be considered personal. So any guesses on the adoption or anything or OB? And do you think this is gonna be a 1-book series? Think it's gonna be a 2-book series? Let me know what you think. I'll give you a minute. There's been more. I mean, she's talked about a few people being adopted in her books. That's the shunning was one of the biggest ones. That's probably why it ended up the way it did, because she went to seek out her English life and ended up being an interesting, rich English life. But sometimes she also writes about people and why they leave the Amish church, and they usually do it for, I would say, good reasons, because they want to worship differently or they want to have more time to study the Bible. So there are good reasons that her characters leave the Amish church. Most of them don't, but some of them do. Yeah, so she said maybe Brita was adopted from an English family. That's Melissa's guess. I agree. I don't think it's going to be an Amish family. It's probably an English family. But I feel like we also are going to learn, maybe Brita and Eli's death are not connected at all, but they're definitely two mysteries that I think are going to have to be settled. Like what happened, who's leaving the flowers at Eli's site where he died, and who is Brita's English family. Because Brita has definitely a sense of like business about her. Like she always has really good ideas for business and selling this and selling that and doing this and doing that. She's very business oriented in her mind. So makes you wonder. But thank you for guessing, Melissa. That's all I have. It was so fun to do this with you guys. So we'll see who's right. We'll see how it goes next week when we talk again. It won't be as long probably because we'll have all our mysteries solved. Oh yeah. So I'm still learning how to do this. So thank you guys. Hope you have a good weekend. We've had a sleet storm on Wednesday here in Oklahoma. And we have been in our house since then. It was like this much sleet, but not to be ice, and we can't drive anywhere. Like yesterday was the first day we could drive, and it just got barely above freezing. So things started to melt a little bit, but it's still really, really icy out there. So we've been stuck in here. So it's a good time to read and to bake. But yeah, let me know if you guys are getting Fosnot donuts this week. It's Fosnot Day. I tried making them last year. It was a disaster, but I love them. Let me know if you like them. I haven't had them in a long time though. That is all. Thank you for joining me. You guys have a good weekend and keep reading. We'll talk about it again, and then we can talk about the next series that Jimmy mentioned. I'm excited about that. I'm gonna look them up this week. You guys take care. Thank you. Bye bye.